Flight 447, the pilot selects a slightly lower speed to reduce stresses on the aircraft. Auto thrust automatically reduces engine power.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, the captain speaking. We are just approaching an area where there are a few rain showers around. We've put the seatbelt sign on for approximately 10 minutes or so.
As they edge around the storm, Alder triggers the critical moment of Flight 447. He fails the airspeed indicators.
Okay, we have a nav 80 ADR1 fault, and we have unreliable airspeed.
The automatic systems shut down.
We're flying with no autopilot or auto thrust. Okay, lost.
Okay, autopilot's on. Fuel control.
We have control.
If their airspeed drops by as little as 10 knots, they could stall and fall out of the sky. But the captain relies on established standard procedure. He pushes the throttle levers to set thrust at exactly 85%.
And I'm selecting, I've got 85% set.
Then he raises the elevators to pitch the nose up at precisely 5 degrees. With 85% power and 5 degrees pitch up, they should always settle at the same safe speed.
It's quite possible to fly the aircraft to actually quite high standards of accuracy. Something in the region of about 5 knots or so of the desired target speed would be quite achievable for most crews.
To get radar contact for the next 40 nautical miles.
Pitch and power is the pilot's lifeline. They ignore any fault messages until they're safely in control.
Got 5 degrees on the standby, 4 degrees on the other.
Flying the aeroplane is the prime objective. No matter how attractive the messages might be to anyone on the flight deck, you both concentrate on ensuring that the person who should be flying the airplane is flying it and flying it in the manner which is safe.
Okay, so we've got what I think is basic control of the attitude. We're bumping a little bit with the weather, but generally that's safe.
Maintaining pitch and power will get them to the nearest airport.
Well, we had
The storm has passed. The emergency is over.
That's it. It's finished.
Martin Alder's simulation shows that speed can be maintained even if all 3 pitot probes fail. But was this standard pitch and power technique applied by the crew of Flight 447? And why didn't they recover control? The official reports have no direct evidence. But former Airbus pilot John Cox identifies a crucial detail in the standard procedures.
If they were just entering an area of choppy air, they may very well have been slowing the airplane down.
When Flight 447 first entered the storm, they would reduce speed. So autothrust decreases engine power automatically. But it does not give the pilots an important visual signal.
The thrust levers themselves, the throttles, don't move, unlike some other airplanes where you can feel the throttle in your hand moving. With Airbus aircraft, that throttle doesn't move with autothrust engaged, so you have to look at specific engine power indications.
The power indications are displayed here on the central control panel. But in John Cox's scenario, the pilot doesn't notice it.
If you're very task saturated, your concentration is going to be directly in front of you. What's the power output of the engines? You're going to have to physically turn your attention and look to the center console area. This is not going to be done as frequently as looking at the things right in front of you. It's certainly going to be in the scan. The question is how often.
Overloaded by fault warnings, the pilot overlooks the low power indication.
Was this crew one that was very attentive and picked up this information very early? Were they very slow to pick up the information? We don't know. Were the demands so high that they were unable to keep up with it? We don't know.
Only Flight 447's black boxes could provide conclusive evidence. But now Tony Cable discovers a worrying pattern to support Cox's theory. In 10 previous incidents of airspeed failure, the crews failed to increase thrust immediately.
In quite a number of them, it's clear that the crews were very slow to get onto manual throttle operation.
In 5 cases, crews did not take manual control of thrust for more than 60 seconds. For Flight 447, that would spell rapid deceleration and the risk of a sudden stall.
10 to 15 knots would not be unusual. If you decelerate at a knot a second, it's 15 seconds. The aircraft could slow down to a much lower speed, and you could approach the stall quite quickly in that manner at altitude.
There is a good possibility that at some point in the last 4 minutes that there was a stall event.
A sudden and critical loss of lift from the wings. But even in a stall, the aircraft can be saved. Tony Cable explains the standard recovery technique.
The procedure is full thrust on both engines, reduce the pitch attitude, and the aircraft will then resume normal flight.
By pitching the nose down, the pilot restores smooth airflow over the wings and escapes the stall. But Flight 447's pilots may have found themselves in totally unknown territory.
If they were in a condition that it fully stalled, oftentimes when the nose breaks, they'll roll off on a wing. And that's a pretty aggressive maneuver when the airplane does that.
If one wing stalls before the other, the aircraft rolls violently to one side, more like a fighter jet than a passenger airliner. To recover from this stall, the Flight 447 pilot would require highly specialized skills. This is the National Aerospace Training and Research Center in Pennsylvania. At the controls of his advanced simulator is Colonel Paul Comtois, a former U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter pilot. He believes that taking an aircraft to the extremes is a skill that only comes from direct experience.
We don't fly around autopilot a lot. We have a lot of, hands-on stick time. Not only does it give you the experience to fly in that extreme maneuvering envelope, it gives you the confidence to be able to do it as well.
The simulator has the cockpit controls of a passenger airliner. But unlike conventional simulators, it moves like a fighter jet, spinning on 3 axes to take pilots to the limits of human physiology.
You learn not to believe your body, because your body will lie to you.
Comtois is flying in the dark, with no visual cues from the outside world. Instead, he must rely on his instruments.
I have flown on missions where I felt like I was in 120 degrees of bank, but I'm looking at that gauge and it's telling me I'm flying straight and level.
Instructor Glenn King is about to trigger a violent maneuver, like the stall that may have hit Flight 447.
Here comes a very high 4-degree pitch up, 50-degree pitch up attitude. The aircraft is rolling.
The simulator sends Comtois into a head-spinning roll at 35,000 feet.
You got to unstall the airplane. The nose must go down.